Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It is Corey, and this is episode 5 of MeTime. I hope you guys are all doing well. I am doing good myself. It has been a while since I last posted an episode of MeTime. It's been a little over a month, and I'm very sorry, but I have just been literally everywhere doing everything and finishing school, going to MomoCon. Then I had my parents' wedding. So I've just been doing a lot of things, and I've also really been trying to think of what I could talk about here on the pod. And I was like, what could I talk about, that has to do with me, centers around me, and that sounds so like, but I was like, what could I talk about? And I was like, my book. Now, it's not even a book, it's more of like a concept of a book. And so I thought that I would talk about it. And I thought that I could make this a little series um in the podcast. And so I guess for the next few episodes, if not a lot more of the episodes, I will be talking about the book or my concept of this book that I've been working on for so long. But yeah, so just a little introduction to this book concept that I have. This started back in 5th grade, so this has been something that I've been thinking about, have been trying to work on for about 6 years now, and it's gone through so many changes, and it's crazy. I think in this first episode, I'm going to talk about the first two chapters, and then the second two next episode, or the third and fourth, and then fifth and sixth, and so on and so on. But a little introduction. Started this about 6 years ago um, in 5th grade with my friends Cheyenne, Braxton, and Emily. I no longer talk to them anymore. I moved schools and haven't been able to talk to any of them. Actually, I have talked to Cheyenne since then, and we kind of talked about the book here and there, but I actually haven't spoken to her in a while. But we started this book back in 5th grade after we had watched the anime Sword of Souls. Oh, wait, no. Sword Art Online. We watched the anime Sword Art Online, and we were like, this is the coolest anime ever. Let's write a book. Essentially, like a fan. I don't know what you would call it. Like a fan fiction, but it wasn't set in the universe of Sword Art Online. It had the same concept, whatever, but we were like trapped in an island. We had to survive, and we called it Sword of Souls. And we called it Sword of Souls because if you shorten that down, it was SOS. And like we were on the island, we needed help. And there was like magic and like a game system and like levels and all of that closely related to Sword Art Online. If you've seen that anime, you would kind of get the gist of the book or whatever. But we had like dragons and like elemental powers or whatever, and um, the book is very different from that first draft. I think I might actually have that first draft, so maybe one day I will read it to you guys or like do something related to that. But where the book is right now, it's very different, and so I guess I will just jump straight into it. So, and this is, you know, me explaining this book. You're probably gonna be like, "What the fuck is he talking about?" I don't know what I'm talking about. This is more of just been like a concept in my mind and not really something that I've put down on paper or even planned. I've tried to plan it. I have like a character sheet on Obsidian or whatever. But it's been a long time since I've went on that. So Yeah. Okay. So starting off, I wanted to do a little like prologue, and it's of these two people. It's a boy and a girl, and you don't know their names, and they're walking into this big, big building with a bunch of other kids their age. I would say they're about like 15, 16, whatever, maybe 18. I'm not really sure the ages yet, but they're walking in or whatever, and they're like confused, they're scared, and it's like very futuristic, very like, whoa, what's happening? But there's a little chill in the air, like it's kind of eerie and kind of scary, like they were expecting something else, but they're here now, so maybe they think it's a part of this like thing that they're supposed to be going to, and um they walk into this room, and it's very dark and it's very scary, and this girl and this guy, they're looking at each other and they're like, what the heck, like what's going on, like what's happening? And then like there is this guy that appears out of the black up on this stage, and he's like, welcome everybody, I'm so glad you could make it. You guys are going to be the first group to go. And they're like, go where? Like everybody's really confused, like what's going on? And the guy up on the stage, as you can see, I clearly don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Concept, okay? Um like he's really scary, the guy up on that stage, and then they hear like a bang from the back, like where they entered, where the doors are, and a guy bursts in, and he's like, Allison, no, no, no. And then the guy up on the stage, like, throws fire, kind of like how firebenders use fire, like, and then like a huge white flash happens. Prologue. Or is that epilogue? No, epilogue is at the end of the book. Prologue is like before the real chapters. Okay, but then there's that. And jumping into where you'll see that I kind of have been working on this and polishing it for a little while. We open up to chapter 1 in the forest, in the snow, and we are focusing on this boy, and he's in the snow, like it is snowing. He's clearly up on a mountain in a forest, and he's has a backpack on, and he has a notepad, and he's like drawing on this notepad, and he's looking up at the tree and looking down, and up on the tree is like a carving, and up and down on his paper he's like copying the carving down on his paper, and he finishes and he flips, and like there's a bunch of notes, a bunch of things like scratched out, a bunch of places, a bunch of people's names, and there's a name Allison on there, and a lady carrying firewood passes by him, and he's like, hey boy, what are you doing out here? It's getting pretty late, and you are in a t-shirt and shorts, and it's snowing, and I mean snowing, like a snowstorm. And he's like, no, it's fine, I'm fine, I come out here all the time. And if this woman, she's bundled up, she's getting firewood, and she's like, you're gonna catch a cold, you're gonna die out here, you need to go. So he's like, okay, fine, whatever. He packs all of his stuff up, and he starts to walk home, and he's walking on the street, and where he lives is a mountain range, and the mountain kind of goes like this, and then there's like a dip in the middle, and there's like a little town down there, and then like there's houses like up on like the incline of the mountains, and that's where he's walking, up on the incline, and he's looking down into the basin through the trees, and he can see the town, and he can see that the school is getting out for the day. He can see all the kids leaving, car's driving, and he continues to walk on the road. He passes all the houses. He looks into them. He can see how warm it is on the inside, and he can see all of the families in there being happy, being, together. There's a contrast between the people on the inside, the warm light, and then like the harsh, cold, wintry outside. And he's all alone, and he's still in his like shorts and t-shirt. And he continues walking, and he passes a group of guys, a group of kids from the school, and he puts his head down and walks by them, and he can hear them laugh behind him. They're laughing at him. And then he passes some more houses, and then he gets to this one house. And this one house is crazy. It's overgrown. There's so many plants, and they're all alive. Flowers, vines growing up. The trees around the house are, a lot more like healthy looking. And it doesn't seem like the snow or the weather is really affecting this house. And of course, this is his house. He walks up to it, walks in, and it's cold and dark, and all the lights are off. And he puts his bag down, and he goes to the fireplace, turns it on, and sits down on the couch. And he looks through all of his notes, and he's disappointed. Down on the paper, you can see writing. It's like, where is Allison? Yada yada, all of this, like clues and all of these things. And he flips through it, clearly not happy with what's down in there. And he kind of just like closes his eyes, and he pictures her. He, is feeling the heat coming from this fireplace, and he's feeling it, and it's making him think of Allison. And the heat is making him think of her red hair and her warm smile and her warm sort of aura, and how she made him feel. And he's slowly drifting off, and the thought is more of turning into a dream. And then he hears a knock on the door, and then he's about to get up, but the door opens, and a girl bundled up in a bunch of jackets, carrying a bunch of books, opens the door, closes it with her foot, and drops everything down on the ground. She unzips all of her jacket layers, and it is his sister. And she's mad at Corey. She's like, why didn't you open the door? Why are you in those clothes that aren't for the weather? And she is just like so done. She's so tired. She clearly just came from the school. And she cleans herself off. She turns on all of the lights, and she turns up the fireplace even more, and she kind of just goes off on Corey. She's not like mad or anything, but she's more of just like really energetic. She's like everywhere, and she is like talking, and everything that she's saying kind of is like hitting at Corey, but she's not like trying to be mean. She's like, you should really be going to school. Like, you shouldn't be dressing like that. You haven't gone to school in 2 years. You really think that this is good for you. You just sit at home all day. You go out and do whatever you do, and it's not great. Then Evelyn goes, hey, where's Dad? And Corey's like, what? And she's like, where's Dad? He said he, had something really important to tell us. Like, what? Where is he? And Corey's like, I don't know. Like, I haven't seen him in a while. Probably this morning he saw their dad. And Evelyn's like, this morning? Where have you been all day? Like, she's starting to get like actually angry at him. And she's like, you leave the house and now you don't know where dad is. He does literally everything for you. Like, you might not be his real son, but he cares about you or whatever. And Corey starts to get angry, and he's like, I don't even really care. Like, he's not my real dad. He doesn't care about me. You don't care about me. And they kind of get into a heated argument, and they're like, Corey, what are you doing with your life? Like, you haven't gone to school in 2 years. You don't care about dad. You don't care about me. All you care about is finding your friend that's probably dead. Talking about Allison. And Corey is like really hurt, and he's like, well, you're, just like a big fucking nerd. All she cares about is her dad and how he ignores her and doesn't think of her, or doesn't think of him as her real brother. And they kind of go off into their rooms all on their own. Um, Evelyn goes to her bed and just lays there, and Corey goes to his room, and Corey's room is very dark and everything, but he turns on a lamp, and his room is a mess. He has boxes everywhere. He has like a table in the middle of his room, and all over his walls are pictures and notes and leads. And then there's like the red yarn going everywhere. And he's trying to find Allison. He it went to his room to try to calm down, but he's looking all over the walls, and he is just like, like what am I doing? He's spent the past 2 years of his life searching for Allison, who went missing, and he's gotten nowhere. And out of pure frustration, he goes up to the wall and rips down like a huge chunk of paper. And then he sits on the ground, and he's frustrated. He's about to cry, and he, sees something on the ground. He sees a poster, and he picks it up, and it's for an organization called Human Point. And he looks at it, and then he thinks of his dad, and he remembers that his dad was going to talk to him and Evelyn being his sister's name, about Human Point. And so he picks it up and looks at it, and he looks at it a little more, and he notices that the people in the flyer are no, that doesn't work. See, like, I'm even catching like plot holes and things while I'm explaining it to you guys. Okay, well, he looks at the papers, and he's like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. And then he, stands up. He's composed. He fixed himself. And he goes to Evelyn's room. And he goes to Evelyn's room, knocks on the door, goes in, and he's like, hey, Dad wanted to talk to us about Human Point. And Evelyn's like, oh, right. But where is he? Like, why isn't he home? It's late, what's going on? And Corey goes like, no, wait a minute. I was looking at this poster, and I remembered that the last time I spoke to Allison, she was going to Human Point. And Evelyn was like, really? That's the last you heard of her? And Corey was like, yeah, she was old enough to go into the program. I remember she went that night to go to, the orientation or whatever, and he didn't hear from her since. I guess that was the first time he realized she went missing. That was the last time she was seen. And Evelyn's like, you're right. Like, why haven't you thought of this before? And Corey was just like, I don't know, maybe this was just a blind spot for me. And they're talking, and Evelyn's like, but okay, so would you want to go to Human Point? And Corey's like, I don't know, like, Dad was supposed to talk to us about it. And Evelyn's like, where is my dad? And, she leaves the room still, a little worried for him. And Corey's like, he's probably out doing something. It's fine. He leaves the house sometimes. And she's like, well, no, he had something to do with us here tonight, so he wouldn't go anywhere. And they're just a little confused. And Corey's like, okay, look. Listen, we can talk about this tomorrow. We can go to bed, and he'll probably be here in the morning to talk to us. And Evelyn's like, okay, fine. They go to bed, and we kind of go into Evelyn's room now. And Evelyn, she is laying in her bed, and she's like, Dad, I really hope you're okay. You're the last real family I have. Sort of ignoring Corey, but this sets up her thing, her sort of story trope throughout the story. She's like, you're the last family I have. I can't lose you too. And she goes over to the books that she was carrying when she came in the door, and she pulls out a paper and she unfolds it, and it's a family tree. And she has her on the tree, her dad, and then everybody else is a question mark. Her mom, other branches for siblings, grandparents, and so on, all blank besides her and her dad. And she, is touching it, and you sort of learn that she wants to know who her other family is. She has that sort of desire to, know and learn who they are. And she also looks down at the bottom, and there's an apple on the ground, and it has Corey's face on it. And she looks at it, and she shakes her head, and she kind of folds up the paper and goes to bed. And then the morning comes, and both of them walk out of their rooms, and their dad has not come home. Evelyn is stressed out. Corey is confused, and they sit down and they're like, what do we do? He hasn't come home. We have to go look for him. And, Evelyn's like, you've been searching for Allison for 2 years. I mean, you sort of know how to look for a person. And Corey's like, to be honest, I go out and I try and look for her, but I haven't found anything. The human point thing is the first big piece of information I've gotten in a while, And Evelyn's like, God, you really do nothing. Like, you left school and now you literally do nothing. And Corey's like, no, I look for Allison. And Evelyn's like, we don't need to argue about this again. We're trying to find Dad. And Corey's like, okay, fine. It's like they're talking, and they're like, well, what was Dad going to talk to us about? What was the last thing he said to us? Was he going anywhere? And Corey was just like, no, he wanted to talk to us about Human Point. And Evelyn's like, maybe he's there. Maybe he's at Human Point. And Corey's like, why would he be there? And he's like, wait, what even is Human Point? And Evelyn's like, if you came to school, you would know what it is, We learn about it. We learn about it right now, but you left. And Corey's like, can you just explain it? And Evelyn's like, back 15 years ago, 15, 16, 18, however many years ago, during the time that they were born, because they're both around the same age. Around the time that they were born, a lot of the planets went under a sickness. It was like a strain of like the common cold, but nobody could cure it, and it killed a bunch of the population, and all of the people who were left in the world, which was a very, very small amount of people, came over to one place in the mountain range, and um, established a settlement here. They were all together. All the remaining survivors of the world settled in this mountain range and are living here now. And Human Point popped up and began to run as this organization to pair two people up to create the perfect children to repopulate the planet. And Corey's like, ew, that's kind of weird. They're like setting you up with like a partner. Like, why would they do that? What if you don't even like them? And Evelyn's like, their whole purpose is to repopulate the planet. At this point, there's so not many, there's so little people that it really doesn't matter who likes who. We just need to repopulate the planet. And that's what Human Point's doing. And so Corey's like, okay, and what does that have to do with us? Why do, like, what? And Evelyn's like, whenever you turn 18 or whatever, you go to Human Point, and that's basically where they pair you up and they set you up. And that's where you go through, where you get your whole life planned out, essentially. And Corey's like, what? That sounds so lame. That sounds horrible. Like, why would I want to do that? Why would anybody want to do that? And Evelyn's like, that doesn't matter. We just need to find Dad. And the only place that they can really think of going is Human Point. And Evelyn is like, when she goes to school on Monday, she's going to, or when she was at school or something, she got a flyer for Human Point, and it says that their next orientation for kids their age, which Evelyn and Corey are the ripe age to go to Human Point. It's soon. It's soon, either tomorrow or the next day. Whatever. They just are at the point where they can go. And so they're like, when we go, we can look for Dad. And Corey's like, we can also look for Allison. And they're like, deal. And then we cut to, I guess, the morning of when they go to Human Point. And, sorry, there's something on my screen. And, they wake up in the morning and they're like, all right, we're looking for Dad and we're looking for Allison. All right. And they go and they're walking, and they excuse me. They're kind of just like, Corey's like, how is school? Trying to make some conversation, and Evelyn's like, it's fine. We're about to graduate, or she's about to graduate, going into Human Point. This is what is happening. And she's like, you really should come back. I could help you. I can, help you not fall behind. And Corey's like, no, like, I need to find Allison. She was my best friend. I don't know what I've been doing without her. And Evelyn's like, you've clearly been doing nothing. And Corey's like, no, I've been looking for her. I've been trying to find her. And Evelyn's like, okay, whatever. And they finally get to Human Point, and there's a bunch of kids their age waiting around, and they walk into the building. The futuristic doors open. And one thing I do want to point out, a lot of the buildings and a lot of the houses are wood and are not in the best shape, but the Human Point building is more modern and futuristic in a sense, and definitely stands out from the rest of the buildings. Also, the Human Point building is a lot bigger, and it's built straight into the mountain. Like, it goes inside the mountain. But anyways, they go in, and it's dark, and it kind of reminds us of the epilogue. And Evelyn and Corey are like, what's happening? What's going on? How could Dad or Allison be here? What? How? And they see some kids from school, and they're all like, what's going on? Like it's a little scary in here. And then the lights turn on, and then like a doorway opens up, and they all walk in, and there's a bunch of like seats everywhere, and they sit down, and the stage lights go on, and this guy walks out. It's this really buff ginger guy. He's wearing sort of like I don't know, like a suit or something, but he has a bunch of like metal sort of jewelry on, but also armor pieces. It's really weird. And he's like, hello everybody and welcome to Human Points. You all will be partnered up with somebody here today. You'll be doing some tests and things, and yeah. And then he's like, a few of y'all, I will call y'all's names, and I want you to wait outside. And he calls some names, and all those kids go out there, and he's talking to all of the other kids who are left in the room. And also, I want to say, when he first comes up on stage, he's very like, menacing and mean and kind of scary. But then he's like, all right, everybody, this is what you guys will be doing today. A very weird switch, and he's talking to everybody, and he's like, does anybody have any questions? And Corey, slowly raises his hand, and he's like, hey, do you know a girl by the name of Allison? And he's like, nope, don't know. Haven't heard of her. And he's like, oh, okay, well, she came here and I haven't heard from her since. And he's like, nope, haven't heard of an Allison before. Any other questions? And then Evelyn raises her hand, and she's like, have you seen my dad? Has he been here since, a few days ago or yesterday? And he's like, what's your dad's name? And she's like, Talon Rose. And he's like, who's your dad? And she goes, Talon Rose. And he's like, you girl and your friends? And she looks at Corey and goes, brother. And he goes, brother. The guy up on the stage, he's like, brother, why don't you two go out there with those other kids, and I'll be out there in a second. And they go out and they wait outside, and they're like, you think he knows something about Dad? Like, he put us out here. Like, you really think? You really think? And they wait outside for a little bit, and then the guy comes out, and he's like, all right, everybody, I want you to follow this lady over here, but you two come with me. And they're a little scared, but they follow him, and he's like, where do you guys live? And Evelyn's like, oh, we live on yada yada street in a cabin. And he's like, what have you been doing all these years? Do you go to school? And Evelyn's like, yeah. Do you know where my dad is? And he goes, also, the guy's name up on the stage, I forgot his name, but we're gonna call him Mr. Flame for now. Mr. Flame, he's like, oh yes, I know your dad. Me and your dad are very good friends. And Evelyn's like, really? I've never heard of you. I didn't even know that he had friends. And Mr. Flame goes, oh yes, me and your dad know each other very well. And they're walking through this really long hallway, and Corey's, listening on the conversation, but he's looking at all the doors they're passing, and all of the lights are off in those rooms, and it doesn't look like there's anything in there. And um, Corey's like, "Where are we going?" And Mr. Flame is like, just keep following me. Or he doesn't say anything. And Evelyn's like, well, have you seen him? Have you seen my dad? And Mr. Flame's like, yes, I've seen your dad. Yes, I know where he is. And I'm taking you to him. And um Evelyn's like, yes, all right. And Corey's like, something doesn't feel right in here. Something doesn't feel right, you know? And Evelyn's like, just shut up, you know? Like, you know, it's like, it's fine. And Mr. Flame kind of shifts his conversation to Corey, and he's like, not dressed for the weather, I see. You know, Corey's still in his shorts and t-shirt, and Corey's like, yeah, the cold doesn't really bother me much. And Mr. Flame's like, really? And he's like, Corey's like, yeah, I don't feel it much. I mean, sometimes it's a little cold, but I don't get sick or anything. I don't shiver. And he's like, I know somebody like that. I know somebody just like that. And they continue to walk down this hallway, and you know, the lights seem to be getting dimmer. There's a light out here and there. The doors are, you know, still dark on the inside of those rooms, and it doesn't look like this way has been walked at all. And Corey starts to feel really uneasy, and Mr. Flame is quiet, and Evelyn is, you know, excited over there, and Corey's just feeling everything. And then he starts to feel cold. He starts to farts. He starts to feel, you know, really chilly, really cold. And after a while, Mr. Flame is like starting to feel cold, and Mr. Flame's whole demeanor has changed. And Corey's like, "Where are you taking us?" And then there's finally a turn in the hallway, and at the end of this hallway, it's like stone. It's like the mountain right there. And Evelyn's like, "Oh, are you guys still drilling into the mountain? Still expanding into the mountain?" And they reach the door, or the stone, and there's like markings on it. And Mr. Flame's like, "Oh, our building goes a lot deeper into the mountain." And he puts his hand up on the door, and it sort of like lights up, like fire goes through the door into like the little crevices and the carvings of the door. And Evelyn and Corey are like, what the fuck, you know? They're like, what's going on, what's happening? And Mr. Flame looks to them, and he's like completely different. His like eyes are red, and like, you know, he's looking at them, and then he takes his hand off, and he's like, "I'm taking you to where you two belong, right with your dad and right with Allison." And at this point, Corey's like, "We need to go. We need to run." And so they start to run down the hallway, but then a huge wall of fire comes up, and there's this like whole fight sequence that happens. And like Corey starts throwing punches, Evelyn starts throwing punches, and the fire starts to like move closer and closer to them, you know, making them move closer to Mr. Flame. And, you know, Mr. Flame's just screaming and talking about, "I finally found you. It's finally time that, you know, we get this plan in motion, you know." And Mr. Flem gets a hold of Evelyn and like starts to like hold her by here, and she's being burnt. His hands are lighting up, and you can see the marks on her neck. And Corey's on the ground. He got knocked out, and he's like, no, like in his mind, he's like, no, I can't lose anyone else. Like, I can't lose Evelyn. I've already lost Allison. I can't lose her too. And something happens, and this huge flash of white appears, and Corey has sort of, like gotten up and is like glowing. He's glowing, and he like throws a punch at Mr. Flame, and it knocks him into the stone wall, and the door starts to open. It starts to open up, like the two walls start to open up, and it's pitch black in there. And Mr. Flame is on the ground. Evelyn's on the ground, and he picks Evelyn up. He's still glowing. He's still in this like weird state. But then a voice calls out from this like new dark pitch black room on the other side of the stone, and it's like, like, come here, I finally found you. And there's like a string of like purple light comes out and attaches to Corey, and it starts to pull him into the room. And he grabs on it, and he tries to like tug on it or something, and he's like, no, and he's still holding on to Evelyn, and it's pulling him in, and he looks over at Mr. Flame on the floor, and he's going like, yes, finally, yes. And Corey sort of like stomps his feet into the ground and like grabs the string and like pulls on it, and something comes out of the room, and he punches it, and then this like huge flash of white happens, and we then we then cut to Evelyn waking up. Evelyn wakes up, and she's like, what's happening? And she touches the burn, and she's like, and she looks around, and she's in like this endless grassy field. There's hills, and there's like mountains all around her. She's like, what the fuck? And then that's chapter 1. And explaining chapter 1 took 42 minutes. So instead of talking about chapter 2, I think I'm going to talk about chapter 2 in the next episode. So, yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I really hope that you enjoyed this little run through of chapter 1 and I guess the prologue of my book. And, yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, comment if you are, intrigued or excited about this little mini series inside the podcast. And if you guys have any theories or something about the book or what I've explained so far, definitely comment those down below. I forgot what I was gonna say. My socials are down in the description. The Discord is down there. I think my Twitch is down there. Maybe it's my TikTok. I don't know, but just make sure to join the Discord if you liked this video. Subscribe, like, hit the bell, comment, whatever, and I'll see you guys next time.